Okay. Um, Now that I have everything loaded up, I can go into and show the things I did for the skin. Like, all right, so from probably the 3D Total days when I was first learning stuff in 3D Studio Max and stuff like that, there was a tutorial that gave you a general idea of how to make a procedural skin using just like different math and like the cellular mask generation. And one thing that I do remember from there is that that breakup of cellular information can give you those little fine details in the skin that I wanted. And I tried to see if I can reproduce it inside of Substance. If I can get this brush out the way. So pretty much what this is just you have a base color for skin. Again, this is desaturated in general. Uh, Mainly because I need to multiply it by actual skin color in the engine, but um, this is pretty much the general skin tone for her. Yeah, this is the general skin tone for her in general. Um, and then on top of that, I have a base rough fill that I use to bring down the skin roughness data. You're probably not going to see it much on this one because of the roughness specular that I have here. So if I turn this one off and then I turn this one off, it gets really shiny and then less shiny. The only thing I'm doing here is I have a skin. I have like it's just like a specular grainy type of texture that I made in Photoshop. I think it's like 3D clouds mixed with grain will give you like this little uh yeah, it's grain. A monochromatic grain. It will give you like a little dittered skin effect type of thing that I wanted. Um Seeing if that would like give me like the desire that I wanted in general. Um so when I made this, I made it like try to make it somewhere towards medium gray, mixed with a little bit of like little peaks of like lighter gray to give the roughness value a little bit of punch. And from there, it kind of did what I wanted, which makes the reflection and the skin power not as heavy. But I didn't get as fully what I wanted until I started to use the Perlin noise in the same fashion that I used that grayscale to bring in the Perlin noise, scale it up, and do. That's if I wanted to clamp it. Like I'm not really clamping it right now. I'm more likely to get that when I clamp it. You just get less of the effect when I do that on the Perlin. But I just pretty much left it like it was. Um, don't think I had to invert it, but with that, I just used that to drive this channel, which was with the actual specular differences. I wanted to actually add in um, uh, I wanted to add in like just color details with the specular, trying to give it like little pores or something on the skin. So if I crank this up, what you'll start seeing is like the big giant blemishes. Well, this one's not blemishes. That one's blemishes, but you'll get like, a big giant skin discoloration. And that's what I really wanted to use to like try to give that little fine detail of skin and discoloration till it looked kind of what I wanted. Again, I'm not going for realistic. I want to actually make a doll-like character with like semi-realistic skin, like I'm used to in Daz in general, because they never look human. They always look like dolls, and that's all. That's what I wanted to make. I wanted to make anime character like dolls that operate in the game world in general. Um, that kind of stylized type thing. But let me see. put that back around there. And then on top of that, I wanted the blemishes, which is the same thing. I think I use a grunge spot instead of that, so that way the effect is different. Let me see if I can make this one bigger so you can see it easier. So you get these little darker discolorations. Each of these little levels is just a multiply to be able to get these effects. I think I also have some height in here because, as you can see, it breaks up height a little bit to be able to give the skin a little bit more offset than what it originally has. You just pull that down to get your little pores in general. And then, I mean, I technically don't need this layer here, but you can probably barely see it. But this was just another breakup layer that I use for try to get some skin normal in there to get more blemishes and stuff into the skin. But I mean, this one doesn't really show up much at all, so I probably can just take that out. But with the combination of all three of those, I got exactly what I want for like skin in general. And then I can play around with it, changing the different levels of tiling, the different colorations for the skin, so I can get where is it? If I wanted darker acne or something like that, to like make the skin look all weird and creepy and whatever. But just playing around with colors to see what kind of different effects and stuff I can get with the coloration to be able to get the skin how I want it in general. I'm gonna undo that to make sure that all this sliding is back to how I had it before. There we go. The other thing that I wanted to do something about was the hair. And that was something where I always failed at. I was trying to see if there was any possible way to get some kind of procedural hair done in Substance. And I found this one awesome person. I'm probably going to say this wrong. Chang-gon Shin, if I said that correctly. He had a pretty good coverage of like making the little procedural hair in Substance. Mind you, at the time when I tried to do this, I couldn't get it to work at all. But I came back with better hair structure, and that worked a lot better. Because one thing I took away from this is with his along with his random hair placement cards in general, that overlapped enough to be able to get a look of thick hair on the actual scalp. With the model of hair that I used at the time, which is the completely like triangle cube or square cube hair meshes, it just didn't have the volume to be able to work with his same technique. So what I did was I went back and re-looked at how I set up the actual hair strands. And one thing I did was, I don't think it's here. Let me see if I can open this. Stop. Brush presets. Alright, so one thing I did, if I can extract this out. No. I am in extractor. Okay. So these are all the hair strands that I have in general. Polish it. So one thing I tried to do is I tried to make a hair strand that could UV to a flat plane in general, but I still wanted to be able to keep like the edges and the borders and the outlines of like the typical anime hair, which isn't exactly a flat card. It has shape, it has pointy edges and things like that. So what I did was I went through and tried to make these to, you know, get the arcs in there that I needed, get the wide sweeping shapes that I could get for like the different hair types. Like this is a bang. This is a very thin bang, but you got still the little edges of, you know, the little stereotypical anime hair that I wanted to try to keep in the actual form. Once I actually did this, one thing I actually found is, if I can find it, actually I'll just take Mika and do it on her. 20 parts. So if I just take her, do a clone, work on clone. One issue that I had with the other hair that I was using in general was the fact that it was not, that's the wrong brush, it was not sticking to the hair the way I needed it to. It would be pretty uncontrollable. Like, I wonder if I still have it. I might have deleted it already. Where is it? Where is it? Might help if I actually use the mouse. Let's see. I think this is what I had before. And what I had before was like open tubes that I would use to draw out. And I mean, I kind of got what I wanted with it. I got kind of like the little thick shapes and stuff like that, but moving it across the head in general was a real pain. It would not move the way I wanted to, and then going over other hair, it would not give me the proper bends and curves that I wanted. But with this new one, if I can find it again, here we go. But with these new cards, like just coming in and getting a general, just a fluid shape that can actually bend properly. I can move it in and out of the head properly. I can drag it across the head. I mean, it even works when I try to like overlap one hair piece with another. The only thing I can think of is because of how the cards are made, like maybe reading the normal on the other piece of hair isn't completely crazy when it's trying to do the algorithm for bringing out another strand of hair. And that's why it works so well. But in general, just doing this hair this way gave me the ability to have more control of hair placement and, you know, get the look and feel that I wanted for the hair. Mind you, I have a lot of spiky hair in my characters, but I tried to make it to where I can even get, like, with even these big ones, I could get, like, I can use it on the back of the head to where if I wanted a giant hair swoop that would encompass like the majority of the head, I can actually get that in and then try to blend it together. That is way long. I could get it to blend together to get, like, you know, the basic anime hair flow. Like, kind of like if I wanted something for like Jesse from Team Rocket, then I can get like very big cards and just pull them from the side of the hair and then get the edges to merge in together well, so that way the swoop of the hair could be more together. Like even with this wide, I made a wide that has a cover on it to try to see if, you know, on the very edges of the hair, I could get this hair to come in and still like block parts of the side of the head that I wanted to keep in and still be able to have like hair flow going on. Now mind you, I might have like smaller hairs under here, but this could come out and start taking over the hair. I mean, taking over the head and giving me good cover with not those many polygon usages. But in general, this hair structure, I mean, these hair planes are just so much better to use for me in general. But that's one thing that I changed, and it just helped so much better for making hair. Now, note, when I do this, I do have some issues with this hair to where the wales don't work properly, and I have to go into 3D Studio Max to like bind them together, or I can use the weld in here to try to get them together, but it doesn't always connect properly. So there is a little bit of work that I'm trying to get done to where these temporary, not temporary, but these little templates that I'm trying to make for hair actually work flawlessly without having to do added extra work. Because I mean, in general, I should be able to finish this hair, break it out, then come over here, auto group. Auto group shows that, hey, these hairs aren't actually welded together. So I can go over here, say, hey, I want to weld. And then hopefully I do an auto group. They're all together, but they may not all fully be welded because maybe someone's just a little bit off. But if I do a divide, these little open edges are the places where I would have to go into another program and put them back together. But when I can figure out why my default card setup is not welding properly, this would be so much better and so much faster for me to use without having to do these little modifications to fix the hair strand. Because the one benefit that I get when I do this is the fact that because I have these open-ended pieces that are dug into the hair, there's nothing welded together. So outside of this very, very end piece that sometimes I just break off and just leave open like this, I don't really care about this part right here because the opacity of the hair is going to just fall off that piece and it won't be visible. But I can get a completely instant straight UV from this. I can just take it into 3D Studio Max or whatever, do a flattened UV. I get a completely straight line just like he had in his video, and then I can get that same effect that I want with the hair using the same technique. It's so helpful in general. I can't wait to see what other kind of anime hairstyles I can make with this, but just in general, that made a complete day and night change for how frustrated I would get trying to get this stuff to work. Along with just like the hair technique in general, one other thing that I added to it to try to see if I can, just add more to the modularity of it. I had an end piece hair strand that could just kind of like bite away at the end of the hair edges, and then I can like towel that to be able to change up what the end pieces of the hair looks like as you go around the little mini parts of the hair. Mind you, the UV for the hair is pretty much just, I put things into straight lines pretty much, but I try to put them in segments. So I have, with this one, I have like, 5 segments of hair all stacked on top of each other. With his example that he did, he had them in random miscellaneous places, but I kind of wanted to be able to try to see if I could make along, especially because I wanted to be modular with the alphas, to try to see if I can get kind of like template hair in different places miscellaneously placed around the head. So pretty much all my strands are just randomly placed in these 5 different columns to be able to give a little bit of deviation of effect around the head, which, in general worked. Ignore the fact that this looks like this inside of here. The transparency is very weird and buggy right now in Substance. I don't know what they changed, but it just started doing this somewhere within the last year with transparency. I think it's when they added the subsurface scattering to the system that it's just subsurface scattering and transparency just started to mess up. But in general, when it renders, not sure if I wanted to do that while recording because it might not work. But when it renders, it comes out looking like I've always wanted. Mind you, there's still better techniques that I probably can do to get the alpha the way I want it, to get the hair strands a little bit better, to try to see if I can get more wavy and modular effects inside of the hair. But the things that I learned from that tutorial are amazing. Also right here, I think the normal in the hair is a little too strong. This is, especially like right here, it looks weird. But when I got it back over into the engine, it looked just like I wanted it to. Please let me cancel this without crashing. Come on. All right. But those are the two major changes that just helped me so much more. Between, Character Creator 2 characters and Character Creator 3, just getting better skin, trying to be more confident in the stuff that I'm doing. It probably still looks like crap and trash, but, my trash is getting ever so polished, kind of. Especially with the clothing, like, I don't know if you can definitely tell here that, like, the shirt I did in Marvelous Designer, I think I have that open already right now. There was a point where I tried to do everything that I could in Marvelous Designer for clothing. Like, here's the outfit that I had for Tori before with the clothing simulation and stuff like that. But the problems that I had is when you bring stuff like that, like even for the last, this last version, like I think if I can look in somewhere around right here in this area and then over here with the pockets, I had so much issues trying to get this to work the way I needed it. So like if I go here, subtools, pants. All right, so in these pants, fit the normals. The first thing that messed me up was the normals in Marvelous Designer. When it tried to do the end result for the welding, the normals inside the pockets would not match up correctly, which caused weird, strange artifacts in ZBrush. I had to pretty much bring it to 3D Studio Max to try to flip the normals properly. I was eventually able to actually flip them in Marvelous Designer to be able to get the pockets to weld properly. But even with that, if you look at like the crotch area to where I have this middle piece sewn in for trying to make the little zipper part area for the pants, it does not like these little edges all being drawn together and weld. Especially when you export it out to some other program. And what I got was like destroyed edges where the poly met the poly, especially in the collar area up here. I'm just drawing stuff everywhere. Let me turn that off. Pick a different brush. That should probably help. But in general, right here where normally you would have normal flipping in Marvelous Designer, I got very weird triangles here where they wouldn't even meld. They wouldn't even weld together properly because the normal was flipped, and I had to go through Marvelous, reflip those normals. And then sometimes even with that, I had ugly edges on certain parts of the clothing. Which is one reason why when I did Tori, one thing I tried to do is see if I could get clothing looking the way I wanted it to, without using Marvelous. Um, the main thing I use Marvelous for is to get the good UVs that they give me for the clothing. Like all these UVs work perfectly with trying to put textures on the different parts of the clothing. I didn't have to worry about mapping things out in crazy ways to make everything fit. To make sure that you didn't get a weird seam between this piece and that piece when you actually brought it over into Substance Painter. But another thing that always got to me was like the edges were always flat and no details in general. Even trying to extrude this out in any program just gave me weird results where it destroyed my UVs. I tried to go in and just bring the pieces on the edge up to make some kind of like visible border for the clothing. It just did not work for me. Which is why when I did Tori, one thing I did mainly was to extrude everything and then try to decimate down to get a decent level of poly that I can just get ZBrush to UV to unwrap for me, trying to see if it would give me some kind of good UV for what I was doing. Like the vest in general, it actually gave me a pretty good UV, and I was surprised about that. Delete higher. And it actually gave me a pretty flat UV split from the front, so that way the seam is in the back where I don't really care about, and it gives me a good flow for things going, for the texture to go across the vest in a natural flowing way. And usually ZBrush didn't give me UVs like this. I don't know if it's just the 2018 version of ZBrush that gives me these good UV lines, because it used to be completely terrible when it comes to unwrapping a UV in ZBrush. Let me undo that. But pretty much with this one, I tried to just do the regular masking and then extract at like 0.005 thickness to be able to get the next level of clothing up and try to go from there. Like that's what I tried to do before switching over to Marvelous Designer, but I could never get anything that looks good. But now it's actually working well for me, even though I still like Marvelous Designer for many different aspects of clothing depending on what I'm making. But I just wanted to see what kind of result I would get when trying to make armor and the little parts like this inside of ZBrush, just using the extract tool and remeshing. But in general, I was pretty happy with most of the results. Especially texturing Tori. Come on, don't crash on me. I've probably been talking way too long. This is going to be a long video. Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't talk about the eye. One thing that I tried to make based off a tutorial that I saw online for for pretty much creating what's the word, procedural eyeball using Substance Designer. I learned the general effect of how to make the shapes and things like that from there. And then what I tried to do is add a little bit of anime effects on top of that. So I tried to get it to where the eye could be elongated. I tried to get the little anime drop shadow. I don't know if you can see it here, but there's a drop shadow coming from here going to here. You can actually control it to go all the way down and around the eye. The little anime eye glares that shows up, I have that in here, but it's turned off. I tried to get the effect to where you could put like the Ahago heart-shaped eye within the eye. I still want to try to do that because I think I have a character that I want to be able to have those type of eyes, but I want it to be a controllable factor to where they turn on and off with the character, and I think they'll look pretty cool with the procedural effect. But that's what I use now to just create all my eyes. It's just a pretty generated eye that I can just control the edge thickness of the line. I can control the different colors in the eye to be able to get what I want out of the eye. And it can range from pretty plain like this to like really crazy like this, especially with the distortion. I really wish I could remember whose tutorial I did for that. If I can find it, I'm gonna put it inside of the description, because that's a pretty good basic for understanding how to make an eye. But then after that, you can just go crazy with trying to see what kind of different shapes, designs, and stuff that you can make within that little whirl to get what you want out of the procedural generation. Like I said before, I actually did not use any of the DAZ models for Tori. I kept with the base default one that I sculpted from that plain looking guy from Character Creator 3, whatever the base guy looks like. Because I wanted him to look still anime-ish with the big, thick, thin eyes. Try to get a little bill shape on the top corners and things like that. But I really didn't want the big anime dome, chrome dome that the Mika has. Even though it's a difference in style, but it's something that I really wanted to avoid having in him, because most of male anime characters have straight elongated heads and things like that, and I kind of had what I wanted already from that sculpt, so I just kept this model. The female model I made was too cute looking, if that makes any sense, and the character that I was trying to make wasn't cute, so that's one reason I went from the Aiko DAS mixture base to be able to make her, because of how I had her set up in all the old concepts. But Tori in general, I've drastically remade over the years. The tattoos I had to redo. I used vector graphics to put those together with some I think they were Aztec vectors that I tried to piece together, erase, and try to make some kind of little Kingdom Heart-esque tattoo designs. I don't know if it can be seen here. So it's pretty much just I do believe it was Aztec, but it was like Aztec tattoo vector graphics that I could just blend together and mix them together to try to make a tattoo for his arm, all the way going down to the heart that you cannot see because his gauntlets, but whatever. It's there, so maybe in an iteration of his clothing outfit, I'll have it to where his gauntlets aren't on, so you can actually see the full tattoo. Same thing with his back in general. Like if I take off his vest, you can't see the scar tissue or the messed up dragon tattoo that he has on his back, but it's just details that are lost, but they're needed for story wise whenever I get there. But I had fun actually making this. I've never made baggy pants before, but from the general sources that I tried to use, if this actually loads, um, I tried to use these type of baggy pants in general for like he's like a monk like character, so I tried to see if I can find any that had like just the little poofy pants at the bottom. In the end, I could not get that same poof effect, but I don't quite hate what I have here. Um, I had a little fun with the texture generation plugins that I've gotten from like the marketplace and things like that to help. Uh, like I think this is I used alpha the alpha pack that someone made that has like just a lot of different alpha mask. Yeah, it's just a lot of different alpha masks that you can use and plug in to get different height effects and things like that. Um, then there's like the clothing pattern generator that's on ArtStation, and I use that for the vest. Um, I want to see if I can create my own type because I would really love to get like uh, custom tessellation patterns. If I'm saying that word correctly, it's the patterns that fold into each other. But I want to get that kind of effect on the vest. But for right now, this looks good as it is. I did not put a seam on this, and that bothers me. But outside of that, just playing around with the different material subsets and things like that was fun using. Getting his hair the way that I needed to look was frustrating, especially with the sources that I had. I don't think I have the hair sources here, but I had a lot of little like kind of like I don't think mullet is the right word, but the kind of like stereotypical emo hair setup that I've been trying to find just like general sources for to be able to get everything in here the way I wanted it to look. For the lips, I actually went online and got some lips, desaturated it to get the lip details, and then I just pretty much try to projection map this on it and then bring down the opacity just to get just a general lip effect. I'm not that crazy about it. I probably need to like blur the edges of the height map so this blends better with the lip. But overall, I was happy to get some lips in there that I didn't have to go in and meticulously draw every little line of the lip and things like that. But in general, I'm happy about the results. I missed that. There's a lot of things in this that just took a while for me to fail over and over again until I got something that I wanted. But hopefully going forward, making the other characters will be fun. I love character creator because now even if I wanted to like even do any kind of like modifications to the what I have, I can just load my character up, change the character however I want it to be. I can increase the neck size if I want it. Just any crazy little thing that I want to do, I can just in a very quick iteration pass change something up just to see how it would affect things and how it would make everything look different. I guess that's it. I don't have anything else to say in general. I can't wait till I get them in the engine. especially with like the face morphs and things like that I need for creating like lip sync dialogue and stuff like that in cutscenes. Once I get this into iClone, hopefully that's a lot easier. I already got a subset of animations that can help me build the animations for the games. Hopefully within my vacation time in the next 2 weeks, I can actually get the part of the introduction of my game working, and hopefully I'll vlog about that as well, I guess. Peace.